We are now live on YouTube.
And I think by my clock it's 6 o'clock. So, good evening, members and members of the executive, and any members of public that are joining us. Welcome to the April executive meeting. I'd just like to start by just reminding all members that obviously we're in Purdah right now. I don't anticipate anything that will be said tonight will in any way infringe the rules, but I'd just like all members to be aware that we are in Purdah, and if necessary, I may stop anyone who I think is close to the edge. Can we start with apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chairman. I have not received any apologies for absence.
Okay, thank you. Members of the executive, are there any comments on the minutes? Are you happy for me to sign them when I'm next in the office? Okay, thank you. Okay. Are there any declarations of interest? This is to not only the executive, but any members. Councillor Bates.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, under item number 6, the Camberley and Old Dean CCTV review, it's a personal interest because I do live in the vicinity of the Old Dean shops, which is referred to within the document.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Garrett.
I'm a trustee of the Old Dean Community Group, if that's relevant.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barnett.
On the basis of what Councillor Bates has just said, I'm also living within the vicinity of the Old Dean shops.
Okay, thank you. As I've said on a number of occasions, you know, you may feel that you're in doubt whether you should actually declare or not. My view is always that you're better to declare than rather than later to have found out that you should have done so. Councillor Jennings-Evans.
Yes, you may want me to declare now or for the exempt, because I have an interest in one of the exempt working group items, purely to say that my husband runs a business in Bagshot.
Right, thank you. Okay. Okay, I'm on more than, or you're on more than one screen for me, so I may not, if you put your electronic hand up, I think it brings you to my number 1 screen. But if I'm not coming to you, please feel free to shout my name and wave vigorously. Okay, right, I think that's the declarations. Okay, item 4, questions by members to me or any of the portfolio holders relevant to our functions. Okay. Right, thank you. All right, so moving on to our first item then of the agenda, adoption of the Equality Strategy 2021-23. Okay, Councillor Josephine Hawkins, do you introduce?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councillors, you have before you the new adoption of the Equality Strategy 21-23. This is before you to resolve it and to be adopted by the council. The Equality Working Group has a cross-party of 9 members. I think the last meeting we had was really interesting. We were discussing how we could support as many events as possible within the borough, different religions and beliefs, all kinds of things, so that we can be more inclusive. Obviously, the council can't support everything, but it's raising awareness that we can actually, as councillors, do ourselves, and also the comms team can, but also provide some help with this. But it was a really interesting meeting. As I say, this is a cross-party representatives of the working group. This is just an update on the strategy. I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Okay, questions for Councillor Hawkins on the Equality Strategy? We're in danger of this being a very short meeting.
Excellent, we've not had dinner.
Okay, so as you said, Councillor Hawkins, where the executive is advised to resolve that the equality strategy is set out in Annex A of the report be adopted by the council. Are we, members of the executive, are we happy to do so? Okay, thank you. That's unanimous. All right, moving on to the next item, item 6, Camberley and Old Dean CCTV review. Councillor Hawkins, that's you again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The council introduced CCTV in Camberley in 1997, with further additions in 2002 and 2010. The existing specification includes 30 CCTV cameras located in Camberley Town Centre and 2 monitoring the shops in the Old Dean. Surrey Heath entered into an agreement with Woking Borough Council about 20 years ago, providing 24/7 control room service, and on this average, an ongoing cost to the council of £66,742 a year. To give a perspective with the numbers of cameras monitored at Woking, they have in the order of 500. I mean, I struggled to find 13 Camberley, to be honest, but maybe if I did something wrong, they would show up. Our partners in Surrey Police in 2018 introduced a new CCTV strategy, which seeks to maintain access to CCTVs across the whole of the county. This has seen a slow introduction of a funding formula for which templates is attached at Annex B. This is based upon type of sliding scale. For instance, if it's a 24/7 control room or remote access, and the number of cameras used. Initial discussions are progressing, but at present, Surrey Police advise that the policy would direct any payments to the district where the control room is located, i.e. Woking for Surrey Heath. And at the moment, there is no agreement in place with Woking Borough Council. This, coupled with the overriding fact that technology has developed upon all recognition since the system was originally introduced over 20 years ago. The council has a statutory responsibility as of the Crime and Disorder Act 1998, where Section 17 requires that a duty to consider crime and disorder implications and places the responsibility upon the council in conjunction with partners to mitigate risk and actuality of crime by utilising various options. Historically, CCTV is a useful tool in discouraging and detecting crime and order and in satisfying that statutory responsibility. So to confirm, the council own the equipment, which has 30 cameras and the servers. The main risk we have at present is the age of the servers located in Surrey Heath House. I'm not sure whereabouts they are. There must be I didn't know we had a basement, but we must have a basement. If there's a major fault, we advise that they may not be able to repair it. And should this replacement be necessary, it is estimated to cost £40,000. That is just for the server. The cameras are equally outdated and are estimated to cost £5,000 each. That's 5,000, and we currently have 30, 30 plus 2. CCTV is a specialised area to consider what options are available together with which partners to work with, particularly as it's considerable expenditure for the council to invest in. The options before you in the paper are in consideration of use an external expert who has in fact been recommended to us by the police that the existing cameras and system are fit for purpose, and to provide further options for consideration. It does have a cost of up to 10,000. We do think it will be quite a bit lower than 10,000, but there is 10,000 in the budget just in case, because we don't want to have to come back saying we need another 500 or something, because it mean another meeting and more delay in time. But this will be used from existing budgets and would enable the council to make an informed decision as to the future of CCTV service in Camberley. Incidentally, you'll see on the background information that 1.3 that Reigate and Banstead actually have agreed to remove the cameras as from 2023. So it's a difficult thing. So it's I would like the executive to resolve that we get an independent specialist in to have a look at it. So this isn't someone who would have a look and say, yes, I think you need this equipment and I can supply it. There's nothing to do with them at all. It is someone recommended by the police and that can give us an independent assessment of what we have and the best way forward. And then we can look to what we might do in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. That's excellent. Okay, so we're going to open up to questions. Councillor Tapper and then Councillor Bates.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I found this an extremely interesting report, and I must admit I'm horrified by the price being quoted for replacement cameras and also the surveillance server. These figures do seem extraordinary. £5,000 for a game. I realise this is probably what they call professional quality equipment, but with the speed that technology is moving today, something that's going to last us 10 to 15 years is probably out of date in 5 years anyway. So why we should pay for something which will last so long that the technology has way moved on from that is beyond me. I would be very loath for the council to go the Reigate and Banstead direction. I think that's exactly wrong, and I think our residents would feel likewise, that they will be very very upset that some sort of security is they're dedicated for the purposes to keep their lives safe is being abandoned. I think my personal feeling is the independent review is exactly the right direction to go. And maybe they could look into the validity of the prices that are being quoted, and maybe see whether or not those prices include services, in other words, to do the conversion, do the installation, or whether it's just for the equipment, and how much services to actually do the work on top of that would be required in order to get our systems.
Thank you, Councillor Tapper. I would add, thank you for your support to get an independent person in to actually look at this. I mean, we don't know what he was going to say. I mean, sometime I believe in the report it does say that a lot of town centres actually have separate CCTV cameras opposed to the police ones. That the police have also said that a lot of people use their own mobile phones to take pictures, and that is used extensively. So how much is used? But I think the idea of having an independent person to have a look and to advise is the solution, really. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bates and then Councillor Alloway, and then I have Councillor Malvaginam.
Thank you, Chairman. I wanted to agree with quite a lot of what Councillor Tapper has said. I think firstly, I agree with the recommendation as one of the two ward members. I don't know if Councillor Garrett will make his comments known in a moment, but I certainly agree there should be an independent review of this. And I also agree with Councillor Tapper regarding Reigate and Banstead. I think that is ridiculous what they're proposing. I used to work in community safety. I did so for 17 years. And this idea that you rely on footage from mobile phones and private CCTV is ludicrous. If you're a private citizen, you're not obliged to give the police that piece of information. The police may request it, but that is just nonsense. There's different rules about public cameras and private cameras as well. So I think it is sensible that we take responsibility ourselves for our own community. What Reigate and Banstead is really up to them, but is a regressive position as far as I'm concerned. And certainly we shouldn't be relying on our own citizens, many of whom wouldn't necessarily even have a mobile phone in many cases. And private CCTV is usually entirely only for the residents if they're having a burglary. In addition to that, the actual figures that are being relied upon by the police are mixing numerous different types of criteria. So if you refer to paragraph page 54, where it talks about police data, and they're saying only 1.4% of the various recorded incidents showed CCTV as a detecting factor. Well, that's because there are many, many different types of recorded incidents. There could be burglaries, there could be thefts, it could be somebody being damaged in a car, it could be a personal crime of some kind. But what was interesting was how many of them that did actually have CCTV as detecting factor, as opposed to the witness, somebody coming forward and stating it, or literally the person being found in the act, was that 16%, 16 out of the 100, were shown to be public realm CCTV, which is actually quite a high percentage. And if you then look at the arrests of people, and there's a number, I think it's 16 or 17 arrests, the actual saving of money of individuals who are caught doesn't appear to be within that. It's difficult to quantify, but if you catch an offender, then you've also you've got the future crimes that are also saving because that individual's been caught. The other question I did want to raise about the Surrey Police quote was that it did strike me as slightly surprising that they have put, as the partnership forum established, 5% of the budget. Now, I've been involved in different partnership forums, and the hire of a room and some emails to arrange a forum doesn't strike me as needing 5% of a budget. So it might be helpful to understand a bit more as to why that is needed. But in summary, I agree that we should be looking at an independent investigation on this, both for the town and for Old Dean, and support the executive in doing that.
Thank you, Councillor Bates. I have to say, I don't know the circumstances in Reigate and Banstead. It could be a number of reasons they've taken that decision. But we as a country I think, are one of the most covered in CCTV nations. And our population not only accepts it, but actually, I think, agrees with it, because it does reduce crime. I'm sure it does. The other thing is there's a necessary bringing to the fore how women are disproportionately frightened when they're alone and when they're walking around. And as a man, of course, I'm disgusted that my gender is actually a major concern for the women. But I think the fact that CCTV is there takes away that randomness of relying on people's phones, whether they're there or not, when CCTV is fixed and it covers the area. So I agree with much of your comments. So, Councillor Alloway.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd just like to ask if the independent review will make a judgment on effectiveness versus value for money, i.e., I think over 8 months, 17 arrests. Any criminal is well aware of CCTV, and so they just avoid it. So I just wonder how effective it is. And if it costs in the region of 60, 70,000, wouldn't it be better to have a couple of PCSOs patrolling these areas more frequently? I think for public confidence, they see police visible in the area, and criminals see the police in the area, they're less likely to indulge, in my simple view. But I just wondered if that effectiveness against cost analysis would form part of this independent review. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that effectiveness and value for money are a major part of the review for the consultant that we'll be talking about. I think the other thing, sorry, Councillor Hawkins, I'm jumping in here. You could
help yourself.
You could answer this just the same, but
no.
Effectiveness for me, my understanding of CCTV is you're right. The criminals, many of them do know where the CCTV is, and therefore the effectiveness of the CCTV is to drive them to areas where CCTV is not. Right? I'm astonished that there's been 17 arrests from what must be some of the dumbest criminals in the area to have committed it underneath the CCTV to be caught. So I think it's about prevention as it is as much about
yes. You're correct, leader. It is a deterrent, I think, more than I think the chance of someone being caught. Well, my own personal opinion is, I mean, when you see people, on Ringo and all sorts of things that people do, and you see someone with a hoodie on and they've got the head against it, but I think it's more of a deterrent. And regarding councillors Alloway, yes, it would be great to have the police done on PCSOs, but I don't think they would do 24/7 somehow. But we need to get the cost of an independent person and see what it says, and then take a view as to what he comes. We don't have to, of course, accept it, but we'll take a view as to what he says, what the recommendations are as to the various items. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Mulvaginam.
Thank you, Leader. I don't want to repeat all what was said before me. I just want to add something to this, which is actually appointing a consultant is a great idea. I think that's the way forward. Secondly, I would actually also add to the Leader that maybe we should also look at or learn the lessons from other boroughs. For example, in Basingstoke, they actually have CCTV and they work with PCSOs or private PCSOs, actually not proper police-based bodies. So it's something which we can also learn from other boroughs. So it's something maybe you all can, the council should consider looking at and bring it as part of the report back to say, this is what they have done, this is what the success rates are for them, so, along with the report from the consultant. That'll be very, very useful for us. Thank you.
Thank you. I think using my language, Councillor Mulvaginam, I would want the report to be clear from the consultant as to what is the base level, what's the basic system that would be put in, what is recommended, and at the other end, what's the gold standard? And I think that's exactly what you're talking about. What is it that we can learn from others? What's the best that's out there? And what do you get for the best? Because I would hate for it to be, and I know we're talking about public money, but I would hate for us to cut short the budget when we could actually end up with making it far more effective for the police and as a deterrent. So I would want to see the basic, the recommended, and the gold standard as part of the report. Councillor Garrett and then Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Leader. Firstly, yes, I fully support an independent review and to see exactly, and I'm guessing that will be in line with the police to see what they believe as well, because I know they've got an officer that's involved in that sort of thing. In my day-to-day life, I have previously sold motors to people that make CCTV, and £5,000 does sound like an awful lot of money. I mean, you've got various different things. I mean, you can have pan and tilt, you have 360 degrees, you need infrared, you don't need infrared. So I think 5,000 per camera is probably a shot in the dark. Not every single camera is going to cost £5,000, and they are going to vary a lot. So I fully get behind the idea of a review to see exactly what is needed, and then we can put up a list of what we actually require. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Leader. The report in Reigate and Banstead by the police doesn't seem over enthusiastic about the concept, and I'm surprised at that. I totally agree with your summarisation that this is a great deterrent factor that we need. And I think if we're going to call in the experts before we decide what to do, we should very much involve our local police. That should be in our objectives here. We're not only calling outside technical consultant, we call the police in. They're the guys that are going to have to use this equipment and react to it and utilise the benefits of it. So I'd adapt, if I don't know if we can amend this order or what, but we should definitely include the police in my opinion.
Well, thank you for that. I think the good news is that we have an excellent working relationship with the Borough Commander. Right, Alec James is our new Borough Commander a few months now, and I can confirm on a personal level that I'm seeing far more of him in meetings and contribution than I've seen before. So I've no doubt at all that the Borough Commander will be part of our consultation. But the fact is, if you notice, Councillor Hawkins already said, the consultant that we're planning on using, or the list, choosing from the list of consultants, was supplied by the police. So we're already on step one, engaging the police to make sure that we're doing the best we possibly can. So I think that's a good point, and we'll make sure that that happens. Okay, are there any other points, any other questions? Okay, I would just like to add that I think that I was very pleased to see that we have a choice in terms of Woking or Runnymede, and I would certainly want that to be explored. As you know, members, we have an excellent working relationship with both, but we're particularly close with partnerships with Runnymede, and anything that strengthens that, I think, is a good thing, but that will come down, of course, to service and value for money. but it's nice to see that we have an alternative. So I'll bring it to a close there. Councillor Hawkins, as you said, your recommendation is that we go for 3.1 small I, which is that we commission the officers to have the £10,000 and go for a consultant to do an analysis of what we have, what we want to achieve, and then make recommendations on the equipment. Okay, are we all in favour of that? Okay, yeah, okay, thank you. Excellent. Right, okay. We're now at item 7, where we have the exclusion of press and public, because we're about to go into commercially sensitive items. And so I thank